Anna's hands wouldn't stop shaking. The envelope felt like it weighed nothing and everything at once, just a slip of paper that somehow held the power to collapse an entire world. She stood in the bridal suite doorway, her gown catching the afternoon light, her father's arm already extended to walk her down the aisle. Outside, the string quartet was playing something soft and hopeful. Victor was waiting. Their guests were smiling. Everything was perfect. Except for the yellow highlighted sentence burning into her vision. Paternity result, 0% match. Anna had spent years building toward this moment. She'd grown up in a home where secrets festered like rot beneath floorboards, where her own parents' marriage had crumbled under the weight of things left unsaid. She'd promised herself that her life would be different, transparent, stable, certain. Victor had been her proof that she'd finally gotten it right. But now she was holding evidence that Victor wasn't who he thought he was. That the Fernandez family, the one that had raised him, fed him, sent him to college, had no biological claim to him at all. And worse, far worse, was the name at the bottom of the test order form, Mrs. Helena Fernandez. Victor's mother had done this, not out of concern, not out of love. She'd weaponized science itself, timed it for maximum devastation, and delivered it like a bomb wrapped in clinical language. This wasn't about DNA. This was about control, about stopping a wedding Helena had never wanted in the first place, using the cruelest method imaginable, making Victor doubt his own existence. Anna's father touched her shoulder. "Sweetheart, what is it?" She looked toward the chapel doors where music swelled and guests waited, and Victor stood, believing he was about to marry the woman he loved. She thought about walking out there and pretending nothing had happened. She thought about protecting the image, salvaging the day, keeping the chaos at bay like she'd always done. But then she thought about Victor's face when he learned the truth, about him standing at that altar, humiliated and erased, while his own mother watched from the front row, with satisfaction disguised as concern. Anna folded the paper carefully and tucked it into her bouquet. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "I need to stop the wedding." Her father's eyes went wide. "What? Anna, everyone's waiting." "I know." She met his gaze. "But if I walk down that aisle right now, I'm letting someone destroy the man I love. And I won't do that. Not even for a perfect wedding." She pushed open the chapel doors herself, her gown trailing behind her like a declaration of war. "Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from, and if this story moves you, hit that subscribe button." Now let's go back to where it all started. They'd met at a charity gala 3 years ago. Anna had watched Victor command the room with an ease she envied, confident without arrogance, passionate without performance. When he caught her staring and smiled, she'd felt something shift inside her chest, like a door she'd kept locked suddenly swinging open. Their first date lasted 7 hours. Victor told her about growing up in the Fernandez household, a prominent black family with deep roots in the community, expectations as heavy as heirlooms, and a mother who believed love meant control. Anna shared her own story, the divorce that shattered her childhood, the chaos she'd learned to survive by making herself small and quiet. Victor had taken her hand and said, "You don't have to be small anymore." That's when she'd started to believe in something different, something solid. But from the beginning, Helena Fernandez had been a shadow over their happiness. She never said anything overtly cruel. That wasn't her style. Instead, she wielded politeness like a scalpel. "Anna, dear, you're so pale. Have you been getting enough sun?" Or, "Victor's always been drawn to unique choices." At family dinners, Helena would reminisce about Victor's childhood, about bloodlines and legacy, about keeping our culture alive, all while looking directly at Anna with eyes that said, "You don't belong here." Victor would apologize afterward, promise his mother would come around, insist that love would be enough. And Anna had wanted to believe him. She'd convinced herself that if she could just be perfect enough, stable enough, unthreatening enough, Helena would finally accept her. But people had watched their relationship anyway. At restaurants, heads turned. At Victor's work events, colleagues made assumptions that Anna was rebellious, that Victor was making a statement, that their love was somehow political rather than personal. They'd learned to ignore the stares, to laugh off the comments, to build a world where only their feelings mattered. Until today, until an envelope proved that Helena had been planning something far worse than disapproval. Anna had thought she was marrying into a family. She didn't know Helena had been setting a trap all along. The first time Anna met Helena Fernandez, Victor had squeezed her hand before they got out of the car. My mother can be intense. Just be yourself. She'll love you. But Helena's smile when she opened the door hadn't reached her eyes. So you're Anna, she'd said, looking her up and down like she was appraising furniture. Victor's told me so much about you. The afternoon had been a master class in subtle hostility. Helena served tea in china so delicate, Anna was afraid to hold it, then watched with barely concealed satisfaction when Anna's hand trembled and the cup rattled. She asked questions that sounded innocent but landed like accusations. What do your parents do? Where did you grow up? Do you have siblings? When Victor left the room to take a phone call, Helena's mask slipped. My son is very important to this family, she'd said, her voice dropping to something colder. The Fernandez name carries weight in this community. We have a legacy to protect. Anna had nodded, unsure how to respond. Victor's always been idealistic. He sees the best in people. Even when Helena trailed off meaningfully, even when he shouldn't. Over the months that followed, the pattern repeated. Helena would insist on family dinners where she'd serve traditional dishes and watch Anna struggle, then offer help with exaggerated patience. She'd bring up Victor's ex-girlfriends, all black women, all from good families, and reminisce about how well they'd fit in. She'd make comments about grandchildren. I just hope they'll know their heritage. It's so important for children to understand where they come from. Victor's father, Marcus, was quieter but followed Helena's lead. Victor's sister, Camille, tried to be kind, but was too afraid of their mother to truly stand up for Anna. The whole family operated under Helena's gravitational pull. As the wedding approached, Helena became more controlling. She insisted on approving the guest list, the menu, the flowers, the music. She vetoed Anna's choices as too casual or not appropriate for our family. Every decision became a battle Anna was expected to lose gracefully. And through it all, that smile, that terrible, empty smile that said, I'm winning and you don't even know the game we're playing. Now standing in the bridal suite with a DNA test in her hands, Anna finally understood. Helena hadn't been trying to control the wedding. She'd been trying to destroy it, and she'd been willing to sacrifice her own son to do it. The wedding planner knocked so softly Anna almost didn't hear it. I'm sorry to interrupt, but this just arrived. It's marked urgent, and the courier said it was critical that you receive it before the ceremony. Anna took the envelope without thinking, assuming it was a last-minute card from a guest. Her bridesmaids were laughing, adjusting their dresses, touching up makeup. Her mother was crying happy tears. Everything felt suspended in that cold pre-wedding glow. Then she opened it. The first thing she saw was the letterhead. Gene Trust DNA Testing Services. Her brain stuttered. Why would someone send her a DNA test? But then she saw the names. Victor Fernandez, subject, and Marcus Fernandez, alleged father. And below that, in clinical, devastating clarity, probability of paternity, 0.00%. The room tilted. Anna gripped the edge of the vanity to steady herself. Her maid of honor, Jessica, noticed first. Anna, what's wrong? But Anna couldn't speak. She was reading the report again, searching for some error, something that would make this make sense. The test had been comprehensive, multiple markers analyzed, results verified. Victor shared no genetic material with Marcus Fernandez, none with Helena either, according to a second test included in the packet, which meant either Victor had been adopted and never told, or something far more disturbing had happened. And the fact that Helena had ordered these tests, had them rushed and delivered at this exact moment, meant she'd known. She'd known and she'd waited, like a sniper choosing the perfect moment to pull the trigger. Jessica took the papers from Anna's shaking hands, read them, and went white. Oh my God, this has to be fake, right? Someone's trying to sabotage the wedding. But the tests looked legitimate, and the ordering information was right there. Helena's name, her credit card, her signature. This wasn't a prank. This was calculated cruelty. Outside, the music changed. The processional was about to start. In minutes, Anna was supposed to walk down that aisle and promise forever. But how could she do that now? How could she stand there, knowing what she knew, watching Victor's face as he waited for her, completely unaware that his entire identity was about to be shattered? And Helena would be sitting in the front row, watching it all unfold, waiting for the moment when someone revealed the truth. She'd orchestrated this like a public execution. Jessica grabbed her arm. "Anna, you need to tell him. Right now, before the ceremony starts." Anna was already moving, the papers clutched in her hand, her gown swishing as she pushed past her bridesmaids. She didn't care about the schedule anymore. Didn't care about the guests or the photographer or the perfect timeline Helena had insisted on. All she cared about was getting to Victor before he had to face this humiliation in front of everyone he loved. She had to warn him. She had to protect him, even if it meant destroying their wedding day herself. Anna found Victor in the groom's suite, adjusting his tie in the mirror. He looked so happy it broke her heart. When he saw her reflection, his face lit up. "Hey, you're not supposed to see me before." Then he registered her expression. "Anna, what's wrong?" She closed the door, shutting out his groomsman's protests. "I need to show you something." Victor took the papers. She watched his face as he read, watched the confusion, then the disbelief, then something worse, something that looked like the ground opening up beneath him. When he finally looked up, his eyes were hollow. "I don't understand," he whispered. "This says I'm not—" "I know." Anna reached for him, but he stepped back, still staring at the results. "My mother ordered this." It wasn't a question. She knew. She's known, and she waited until today to— His voice cracked. He sat down heavily, the papers falling from his hands. "Why would she do this?" Anna knelt in front of him. "Because she wanted to stop the wedding. Because she's cruel and she'd rather destroy you than let you marry me." But Victor wasn't listening. He was somewhere else now, somewhere dark. "Everything I thought I knew about myself, it's a lie. My childhood, my family, my name, none of it's real. I'm not a Fernandez." He looked at his hands like they belonged to a stranger. "Who am I?" "You're Victor," Anna said fiercely. "You're the man I love. You're brilliant and kind and strong, and a piece of paper doesn't change that." "Doesn't it?" His laugh was bitter. "My whole life I've been Marcus and Helena's son. The Fernandez legacy, and now I find out I'm— what, a mistake? Someone else's child they raised without telling me?" Anna felt her own anger rising. "You're not a mistake. You're a person. And whatever happened, whether you were adopted or switched at birth or whatever, it doesn't erase who you are." But Victor was shaking his head, tears streaming down his face. "She's been lying to me my entire life. Every time she talked about bloodlines and legacy and family heritage, she knew. She knew I wasn't really hers, and she still used it to control me." He looked up at Anna with devastation in his eyes. "And the worst part? She waited until today, until I was about to marry you. She'd rather humiliate me in front of everyone than let me be happy." Outside, the music was still playing. Guests were still waiting, but none of that mattered anymore. "We don't have to do this today," Anna said quietly. "We can postpone. We can cancel. Whatever you need." Victor stood up, pacing. "And let her win? Let her destroy us like she planned? This isn't about winning. This is about you." He stopped, his jaw tightening. "What I need is answers. What I need is to know who I really am." His voice hardened. "What I need is to confront her. Right now, in front of everyone." Anna's heart clenched. "Victor, she did this publicly. She wanted everyone to know, so let's give her what she wants." His eyes blazed. "Let's stop the wedding and ask her to explain exactly why she destroyed her own son." What Victor didn't know yet was that the truth was far worse than either of them imagined. And Helena's cruelty ran deeper than a simple DNA test. The chapel went silent when Anna and Victor walked in together through the side entrance. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. The bride and groom weren't supposed to arrive together. weren't supposed to look like they'd been crying, weren't supposed to be holding papers that shook in their hands like evidence at a trial. The pastor stepped forward. Victor, Anna, is everything all right? Victor didn't answer. He was scanning the front row where his family sat. Marcus looking distinguished, Camille beautiful in her bridesmaid dress, and Helena perfectly composed in champagne silk. Her face a mask of polite confusion that didn't quite hide the glint of satisfaction in her eyes. Phones were already coming out. People were whispering. This was about to become a spectacle. Victor walked down the aisle not as a groom but as an accuser. Anna followed, her heart hammering. When they reached the front, Victor held up the DNA test results. Does anyone want to explain this? His voice carried through the chapel. Because I just received some very interesting information. Apparently, I'm not biologically related to the Fernandez family. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Marcus stood up, his face draining of color. Victor, what are you talking about? Where did you get from Mom? Victor's eyes locked on Helena. She ordered these tests, had them rushed, made sure they'd arrive right before the ceremony. He turned to the guests. My own mother wanted to make sure everyone knew, on my wedding day, that I'm not really her son. Helena finally stood, and Anna had to admire the performance. She looked shocked, hurt, confused. Victor, sweetheart, you're upset. You're not thinking clearly. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. Privately? Victor's laugh was harsh. You had these delivered to my bride minutes before our vows, and you want to discuss it privately? No, you wanted this public, so let's make it public. He held up the papers. According to Gene Trust DNA testing services, I share 0 genetic markers with Marcus Fernandez or Helena Fernandez. 0. Which means either I was adopted and you never told me, or something else happened. So which is it, Mom? Which lie have you been living for 32 years? The chapel erupted. Guests talked over each other. Phones were recording, and Camilla was crying. Marcus looked like he might collapse. But Helena's mask was finally cracking. You want the truth? Helena's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Fine, yes, I ordered the tests. Yes, I knew what they'd show. And yes, I made sure you'd find out today. She looked at Anna with pure venom. Because I was not going to stand by and watch my son, the boy I raised, throw his life away on someone who doesn't understand our family, our culture, our legacy. I'm not your son, Victor said quietly. You just proved that. You are my son in every way that matters. Helena's voice rose. I raised you. I fed you. I made you who you are. And this is how you repay me? By choosing her? She pointed at Anna. By bringing someone into our family who will never understand what it means to be a Fernandez? Victor stepped between them. You're right. She'll never understand what it means to be a Fernandez. Because being a Fernandez apparently means lying to your children, manipulating them, and destroying them when they don't obey. He turned to Anna, taking her hands. In front of everyone, the guests, the cameras, his shattered family, he said, I don't want to get married today. Anna's heart stopped, but then Victor continued. I don't want to get married today because I don't want our wedding to be about her, about this. I want to marry you when we're ready, when we've dealt with this, when we can start our life together without her poison in it. He looked back at Helena. You wanted to stop this wedding? Congratulations. You did. But you didn't stop us. The guests erupted again, but Anna barely heard them, because she just noticed something in Helena's face, a flicker of panic that suggested there was more to this story, much more. And whatever Helena was hiding, it was about to come out. Hours later, Anna and Victor sat in her apartment, still in their wedding clothes. Victor stared at nothing while Anna made tea. Neither of them would drink. Her phone buzzed. Jessica, you need to see this. A link followed. Anna opened it and felt her stomach drop. Screenshots of text messages, leaked by someone, probably Camille, messages between Helena and someone named Patricia, dated 3 weeks ago. Helena. The test results came back, as I suspected. Patricia. And you're really going to tell him at the wedding? Helena, it's the only way to make him see reason. Public humiliation might finally break through his stubbornness. Patricia, Helena, that's cruel. He's your son. Helena, which is exactly why I have to do this. I won't let him ruin his life. I won't let that woman destroy everything we've built. There were more messages, dozens of them mapping out Helena's plan with chilling precision. She'd ordered the tests 6 weeks before the wedding. She'd paid extra for rush processing. She'd arranged for delivery at exactly 2:47 p.m., enough time for Anna to read them, but not enough to process or hide the information. But there was something else in the messages, something that made Anna's blood run cold. Patricia, what if he asks about the hospital, about what really happened? Helena, he won't. He doesn't know anything about the settlement. Patricia, but if he finds out? Helena, he won't. I made sure of that years ago. All the records are sealed. The nurse is gone. There's no trail. Anna read the messages twice, then carried her phone to Victor. You need to see this. He took the phone, his eyes scanning. She watched his face change as he read, watched the hurt deepen, then twist into something sharper. When he got to the part about the hospital and the settlement, he looked up with dawning horror. She knew, he whispered. She's always known. This wasn't about discovering the truth. She's known my entire life that I wasn't biologically hers, and she hid it. She sealed records. She paid people off. His hands shook. What happened at that hospital? Anna sat beside him. The messages mention a nurse, a settlement, sealed records. Victor, I think something happened when you were born, something your mother covered up. Like what? An adoption she never told me about? Or something worse? Anna took his hand. What if you were switched at birth? What if there was a mistake at the hospital, and instead of admitting it, they paid everyone to stay quiet? Victor stood abruptly. That's insane. That doesn't happen in real life. It does, though. It's rare, but it happens. And if it happened to you, and your mother found out and decided to hide it rather than fix it? Anna trailed off. Victor stopped. Then somewhere out there, there's another family. My biological family, and they might have no idea I exist. His voice cracked. And the Fernandez family might have another child. Someone who's biologically theirs, who they never knew about. The weight of it settled over them. This wasn't just about Victor's identity anymore. This was about two families, two lives, 32 years of lies. Anna pulled out her laptop. We need to find out what happened. The hospital, the settlement, the nurse. There has to be a record somewhere. Victor looked at her, hope flickering in his devastated eyes. You're really going to help me with this? Even after everything? Especially after everything, Anna interrupted. Your mother tried to use this to break us apart, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to face it together. What they were about to discover would change everything. Not just for Victor, but for another man who'd been living a lie for 32 years. 3 days of digging led them to Nurse Patricia John, retired, living 2 hours outside the city. When they showed up at her door, the woman who answered looked tired and unsurprised, like she'd been waiting 32 years for this conversation. You're Victor, she said simply. You look like your father, your real father. Victor's breath caught. You know who my biological parents are? Patricia nodded, then stepped aside to let them in. She made them sit, made them tea, and then she told them the story Helena had paid her to bury. It was July 15th, 32 years ago. 2 babies born within an hour of each other at St. Catherine's Hospital. Both boys, both healthy, one to Helena and Marcus Fernandez, a prominent black family, wealthy, connected. The other to Sarah and James Mitchell, a young black couple, working class, first-time parents. Patricia's hands shook. I was the attending nurse for both deliveries, and I made a mistake. Anna felt Victor tense. Patricia continued. The babies were in the nursery together. Standard procedure back then. We'd take them for observation, bring them back for feeding. But there was a shift change, and I was exhausted. And the ID bracelets. She closed her eyes. The bracelets got switched. I gave the Fernandez baby to the Mitchells, and the Mitchell baby to the Fernandez family. Victor's voice came out strangled. How long before you realized? 3 days. 3 days before I noticed the error in the paperwork. By then, both families had taken their babies home. I panicked. I told my supervisor, and she told the hospital administrator, and Patricia's face crumpled. He said it would destroy the hospital. Lawsuits, investigation, loss of accreditation. He said the babies were too young for the families to have bonded, that we could quietly fix it, switch them back without anyone knowing. But you didn't, Anna said quietly. We tried. We called both families, told them there was a medical concern, and they needed to bring the babies back for testing. The Mitchells came immediately, but Helena Fernandez, Patricia's voice hardened. She refused, said her son was perfectly healthy and she wasn't going to subject him to unnecessary procedures. We tried to explain it was urgent, but she was powerful and connected, and she threatened to sue us for harassment. Victor gripped the armrest. So what happened? The hospital administrator went to the Fernandez house personally. He told Helena and Marcus the truth, that there had been a switch, that the baby they'd taken home wasn't biologically theirs. He brought the DNA evidence, the paperwork, everything. Patricia looked at Victor with pity. Helena's response was to call her lawyer. Within 24 hours, she'd negotiated a settlement. The hospital would seal all records, fire anyone who spoke about the incident, and pay her family a substantial sum. In exchange, she would keep you and never reveal what had happened. She chose to keep me? Victor's voice was barely a whisper. Even knowing I wasn't hers? She said you were hers now, that she'd bonded with you, that she wasn't going to let some administrative error take her son away. The hospital was desperate to avoid a scandal, so they agreed. They paid her off, sealed the records, and made me sign an NDA. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. I've lived with that guilt every day since. Anna's mind was reeling. What about the other family, the Mitchells? What happened to them? Patricia's face went gray. They took the Fernandez biological baby home. They named him Daniel. They raised him as their own, never knowing he wasn't theirs. As far as I know, they still don't know. Helena made sure of that. Part of the settlement was that the Mitchells would never be told about the switch. Victor stood abruptly. So somewhere out there's a man named Daniel Mitchell who's biologically a Fernandez, and he has no idea. And I'm biologically a Mitchell, and I've spent my entire life being someone I'm not. His voice rose. And my mother, Helena, she knew all of this. She's known since I was 3 days old, and she never told me. She loved you, Patricia said weakly. She used me, Victor cut her off. She kept me because I was convenient, because admitting the truth would have been embarrassing. And then when I finally tried to build a life she didn't approve of, she weaponized that same truth to destroy me. He looked at Anna. We need to find them. The Mitchells. Daniel. They deserve to know the truth. Patricia reached into a drawer and pulled out a worn envelope. I kept their information. I always thought someday I'd have the courage to tell them. She handed it to Victor. But be prepared. This is going to destroy their world just like it destroyed yours. Victor took the envelope, his hand steady despite everything. Then we'll help them put it back together. But what Victor didn't know was that confronting Helena one final time would reveal just how deep her cruelty really went. The confrontation happened at the Fernandez estate 1 week after the wedding that never happened. Victor insisted it had to be there, in the house where he'd grown up, surrounded by the legacy Helena had used to control him. They'd called ahead, told Marcus to make sure Helena was there too. The whole family was waiting. Marcus looking older than ever, Camille with red-rimmed eyes, and Helena sitting perfectly straight, her face a mask of cold composure. Victor walked in holding the envelope from Patricia, and Anna watched Helena's eyes flicker to it with something that might have been fear. We know everything, Victor said without preamble. The hospital, the switch, the settlement, the NDA, all of it. Marcus's face went white. Victor, I can explain. You knew too? Victor's voice cracked. Dad, you knew? We both knew, Marcus said quietly. We've always known, from the beginning. Camille made a small, broken sound. What are you talking about? What switch? So Victor told her about the nurse's mistake, about the baby switched at birth, about Helena's decision to keep him and hide the truth, about Daniel Mitchell, the biological Fernandez son raised by another family, about 32 years of lies. When he finished, Camille was crying. Marcus looked like he might be sick, but Helena just sat there, unmoved. Are you waiting for an apology? She finally said. Because you're not going to get one. I did what I had to do to protect this family. Protect this family? Victor's laugh was bitter. You destroyed it. You kept me from my biological parents. You kept them from me. You let another family raise your biological son without ever knowing the truth. And you did it all because you were too proud to admit a mistake had been made. It wasn't about pride, Helena snapped. It was about love. I held you, Victor. I fed you and rocked you and stayed up with you when you were sick. You were my son. Some piece of paper saying your day came from somewhere else didn't change that. Then why did you use that same piece of paper to try to destroy my wedding? Victor's voice rose. If biology didn't matter, why did you have those tests done? Why did you make sure I'd find out in the most humiliating way possible? For the first time, Helena's composure cracked. Because you were leaving me. You were choosing her over your family, over everything I'd built for you. I thought if you knew the truth, if you understood that you weren't really a Fernandez, you'd realize how foolish you were being. Come back to you, Victor corrected. This was never about the family or the legacy. This was about control, about making sure I stayed under your thumb forever. He stepped closer. Well, congratulations, Mom. You were right. I'm not a Fernandez. I never was. And now I never will be. He turned to Marcus. I'm going to find the Mitchells. I'm going to tell them the truth. And I'm going to get to know my biological family, the one I should have had all along. Victor, please, Marcus said, his voice breaking. You're still our son. Biology doesn't change that. We raised you. We love you. You love me? Victor's voice was soft now, dangerous. You loved me enough to lie to me for 32 years. You loved me enough to let Mom try to destroy my wedding, and you said nothing? He shook his head. That's not love, Dad. That's ownership. He pulled out his phone and showed them a photo. This is Daniel Mitchell. I found him on social media. He's a teacher. He's married. He has 2 kids. He has your eyes, Dad, your smile. He's your biological son, and he has no idea you exist. Victor's voice cracked. How many lives did you destroy to keep your secret? Helena stood, her face showing rage. I destroyed nothing. I saved you. The Mitchells were nobody, working class, uneducated, struggling. You would have had nothing with them. I gave you everything. The best schools, the best opportunities, a name that meant something. I made you who you are. No, Anna said, speaking for the first time. Everyone turned to look at her. You made him what you wanted him to be. There's a difference, Dawn. She walked to Victor's side, and when he finally tried to become who he actually was, someone who could love outside your narrow definition of acceptable, you tried to destroy him rather than let him go. She looked at Helena with pity. You didn't save him. You trapped him. And the saddest part is, you probably really do believe you did it out of love. But love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't control. Love doesn't weaponize someone's identity against them. Love protects. Love supports. Love lets go when it needs to. And you never learned how to do any of that? Helena's face twisted with fury, but Victor spoke again. I'm done. I'm done with this family, this house, this legacy. I'm going to find out who I really am, and I'm going to do it without you. He looked at Anna. And when I'm ready, when I've figured out who Victor Mitchell is instead of who Victor Fernandez was supposed to be, I'm going to marry this woman. And you won't be invited. They walked out together, leaving the Fernandez family in ruins. But the hardest part was still ahead, telling another family that their entire lives had been built on a lie. 6 months later, Anna stood in a small backyard in a quiet neighborhood, watching Victor laugh with a man who had his eyes. Daniel Mitchell was everything Helena had dismissed. Kind, genuine, unpretentious, and he'd welcomed Victor into his life with a grace that still made Anna's throat tight. The DNA test they'd done together had confirmed what Patricia had told them. Daniel was biologically a Fernandez, and Victor was biologically a Mitchell. The revelation had been devastating for both families. Sarah and James Mitchell, Victor's biological parents, had wept when Victor showed up at their door with the truth. They'd mourned the 32 years they'd lost, the son they'd never known. But they'd also opened their arms to him without hesitation, without conditions, without demands. "You're our son," Sarah had said simply. "We don't care what name you grew up with. You're ours, and we're so grateful to finally know you." Daniel had been harder to reach. He'd been angry at first, angry at the hospital, at Helena, at the universe for stealing his biological family from him. But slowly, carefully, he and Victor had built a relationship. They were brothers now in a way that transcended biology. They'd both been victims of the same lie, both raised in the wrong families, both denied the truth of who they were. The Fernandez family had fractured. Marcus had tried to reach out to Victor several times, leaving voicemails full of apologies and regrets. Camille had been braver. She'd shown up at Anna's apartment one night, crying, begging Victor to forgive her for not standing up to their mother sooner. Victor had forgiven her, but he'd been clear. He needed space, needed time, needed to figure out who he was without the weight of the Fernandez legacy crushing him. Helena hadn't reached out at all. According to Camille, she'd retreated into bitter silence, insisting she'd done nothing wrong, that everyone was overreacting, that Victor would eventually come to his senses. Anna doubted that day would ever come. As for Victor himself, he was different now. Lighter somehow, despite everything. He'd started therapy, started processing the trauma of discovering his entire identity had been built on a lie. He'd changed his name legally to Victor Mitchell, reclaiming the heritage that had been stolen from him. He'd gotten to know his biological parents, his brother, his nieces and nephews. He was building a new family, one based on choice rather than obligation. And through it all, Anna had been there. Not as his savior or his fixer, but as his partner. They'd postponed the wedding indefinitely, both agreeing that they needed to heal before they could celebrate. But they were still together, still building a life, still choosing each other every day. "Hey," Victor said, appearing at her side with 2 glasses of lemonade. "You okay? You look deep in thought." Anna smiled, just thinking about how different everything is now. 6 months ago, we were supposed to be married. Instead, we're at a barbecue with your biological family. Victor laughed. "Yeah, it's not exactly how I pictured my life turning out. But honestly, I think it's better. I know who I am now, not who Helena wanted me to be, not who the Fernandez legacy demanded, but who I actually am." He looked at her seriously. "And I know who I want to spend my life with." He pulled a small box from his pocket, and Anna's breath caught. "Victor, I know we said we'd wait," he interrupted, "but I don't want to wait anymore. Not for a big wedding or the perfect moment or anyone's approval. I just want you. I want to build a life with you, a real one based on truth and choice and love that doesn't come with conditions." He opened the box, revealing a simple silver band. "Anna Martin, will you marry me? Again? For real this time?" Anna felt tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." He slipped the ring on her finger and they kissed while his biological family cheered in the background. It wasn't the fairy tale wedding they'd planned. It wasn't the perfect ceremony in the perfect venue with the perfect guest list. But it was real. It was theirs. And it was built on a foundation that couldn't be shaken by DNA tests or family secrets or anyone's disapproval. 3 months later, they got married in a courthouse with Jessica and Daniel as witnesses. Sarah and James cried happy tears. Camille sent flowers and a note saying she understood why she wasn't invited, but she was happy for them anyway. Helena sent nothing, and Victor didn't seem to notice or care. After the ceremony, Anna and Victor went home to the apartment they'd moved into together, a space that was theirs alone, free from the weight of anyone else's expectations. And as they sat on the couch eating takeout in their wedding clothes, Anna realized something. They'd lost the perfect wedding, but they'd gained something better. They'd gained the truth. They'd gained freedom. They'd gained a love that had been tested by fire and come out stronger. No regrets? Victor asked, reading her expression. Anna looked at her husband, her real husband, chosen freely, loved completely, and smiled. Not a single one. And she meant it, because sometimes the best love stories aren't the ones that go according to plan. They're the ones that survive when everything falls apart and come out stronger on the other side. Because Anna didn't just stop a wedding, she stopped someone's entire plan to erase the man she loved. Now I need to ask you something. What would you have done if you found out mid-wedding that the DNA test was meant to humiliate your partner? Would you still say, I do? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if you enjoy stories with shocking twists, family secrets, and real-life lessons, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because the next story is even crazier.